Did you know your credit card points and miles can lose value to inflation? Credit card companies often reduce the redemption value of your points and miles. Now, imagine a credit card with rewards that can grow in value. With the Gemini credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. Every swipe at the store or gas pump earns you instant rewards deposited straight to your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Visit Gemini.com/card today. Check out the link in the description for more information on rates and fees. Again, if you're looking to invest in Bitcoin but don't know where to start, the Gemini credit card makes it easy.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. In segment number 2, we're going to be joined by one of our good friends, William Boor of Action Network. We're going to be taking a look at what we've all gotten here in the postseason thus far. We'll take a look forward to those Tuesday games and just the way that William has been playing this postseason. If there's anything that he's doing differently this postseason as compared to past postseasons in comparison to what he does during the regular season. So we'll have ourselves a good time there. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis for both games on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, there's the they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. Over at EdgeBoost, they are making sure that bettors are able to access their funds whenever and wherever with EdgeBoost. 100% of gambling transactions do get approved, and when you go to EdgeBoost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Monday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Dodgers played their first under of the postseason as they get the job done against the Philadelphia Phillies. This by a count of 4-3 for Blake Snell. A really dominant start in this one. Won it, no runs allowed in 6 innings. From there, Emmett Sheehan does give up a run over the course of his 2 innings of work, and Blake tried and made a mess of things. He faced 3 batters, he gave up 3 hits, 2 runs. Alex Vesia from there got a pair of outs out of the bullpen, but he allowed one of those inherited runners to score before Roki Sasaki. He gets out Trey Turner down for Wood, who did have an RBI in this game, and for Jesus Luzardo, relatively good start here. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Ryan Kerkering from there gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, as for the Dodgers, they were able to plate all 4 runs in the 7th inning. Kerkering had some of those runners be inherited, and then Matt Stroman out of the bullpen scoreless. Tanner Banks, Yohan Duran, they both give you a scoreless inning, but Dodgers now up 2-0 in this series, and yeah, the Phillies very much up against it there. And then in the late game, the Brewers get the job done over the Chicago Cubs by a count of 7-3. Cubs actually get up 3-0 in this game. Aaron Ashby gives up 3 runs in the first inning as he was taken deep by Seiya Suzuki. Oh, I see you getting your second home run of the postseason. And then from there, the well ran dry for the Chicago Cubs. Ashby only got 5 outs. He gave up those 3 runs. From there, the Brewers bullpen was great. Jacob Misiorowski turned out to be the bulk guy. 3 scoreless innings out of him. Nick Mearson out of the bullpen scoreless. Trevor McGill, Jared Koenig, they combined for 2 scoreless innings. Abner Uribe, Chad Patrick give you a scoreless inning apiece, and then it's Shota Imanaga. Boy, the regression monster has come for this guy. 4 runs allowed in 2 2/3 innings. He was taken deep twice in this one. Andrew Vaughn, 3-run shot, so the Cubs' 3-run lead didn't even make it out of the first inning. His first home run of the postseason, and then William Contreras goes deep off of him as well. From there, Daniel Palencia, he gives up 3 runs in an inning. Jackson Chourio, who had an MRI taken about 24 hours earlier, well, he looks fine here. He gets his first home run of the postseason. Drew Pomeranz, scoreless inning, and Colin Ray, well, this was Colin Boo because the Cubs probably didn't want to have to use him for 3 1/3 innings, but he pitched well. 3 1/3 innings, he was able to keep it scoreless, but by then, way too little, way too late. So you saw 1 over, you saw 1 under in baseball, and you saw both favorites be able to get the job done. And if you're taking a look at the trends that we're getting, this is both the wild card round and the divisional round. The favorites are 13-6 on the money line thus far in the postseason, and in the postseason, 10 unders to 8 8 overs thus far with 1 push along the way, and home teams on the money line, by the way, 12-7. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do talk with our good friend William Boor, who does amazing work over at Action Network on the flip side, right here on the Baseball Betting Show, with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man. We've got William Boor aboard as he does such tremendous work over at Action Network, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he's doing a great job on the college football front. He's doing amazing work, taking a look at a little bit of everything. He's got his fingers on the pulse of trying to be able to make us some money, and you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at the letter W. His last name, Boor, Boor, all together. And William, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Playoff baseball's on, football's on. I had a profitable weekend. I get to talk betting with you. Life's great, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, and we are going to be getting that sports equinox within the next few weeks as well, where you get all 4 sports playing at the same time. Always one of my favorite times of year, and then we get college basketball, so it is a great time of year. And William, what have you made out of this first week of the MLB playoffs, as certainly the wild card round was a little bit underwhelming, and we're doing this before we know the results that we saw on Monday in terms of those NLDS games, but certainly scoring has picked up a little bit, especially if you're the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think that's probably definitely my biggest takeaway from the weekend. We knew the Yankees had some pitching issues, especially in the bullpen, but I didn't expect the Blue Jays to be averaging 40 runs a game in the playoffs. That's absurd. Otherwise, I don't think we've definitely had some good games. That Mariners-Tigers series through 2 games is awesome. That's must-watch TV. I don't think we've had any huge shockers. You mentioned the wild card round was kind of slow, whatever. This round, we've had some good games, but I don't think I've had any shockers as far as who's winning the series or who's up. I didn't expect the Blue Jays to blow through the Yankees like that, but I did expect the Blue Jays to, prevail from this series. So I'm not necessarily stunned they're up 2-0. I am stunned that the run differential in that series is 100-6.
Yeah, that has been absolutely wild. And Luke Weaver, he was finally able to get his first out of the postseason to lower his ERA to 135 in game number 2. So, congratulations there. And when it comes to that game number 3, it is a closeout spot for the Blue Jays. They find themselves as an underdog to the Yankees, with it being Shane Bieber, Carlos Rodon. Right now, the Yankees are about minus 145, minus 150 with a total of 7.5. How do you take a look at this one? Because Carlos Rodon comes in relatively good form, but the way that the Blue Jays are hitting, it feels like they're right now hitting on the moon. And for Shane Bieber, he's been giving up a little bit of hard contact himself. Yeah,
this game's interesting. I will probably pass initially or maybe hop in live, because the thing is, the Yankees, as you mentioned, are favored. Rodon's been throwing well. He's the better of these 2 pitchers, but Toronto is mashing like crazy. And I also just don't know where the Yankees are at mentally. Do they come out and say, hey, we're at home, this is our last shot? Or they come out and say, hey, you know what, Toronto's better, we're already at home, let's not get on a flight and go back to Toronto again. I wouldn't be shocked if, that crowd gets a little restless if they start slow or go down 1-0 in the second inning or something. I do think New York should be favored in this spot. If this was Rodon versus Bieber on Tuesday, July 2nd, I'm taking the Yankees, but I just don't know where they're at mentally in this game, in this spot, and that might have me pass on this tomorrow.
It's going to be really interesting to see what we've got there, and man, it is going to be a lot of fun to see what we're going to be getting in this series moving forward if we do get a Game 4 and or a Game 5, as William Boor does such great work over at Action Network. He's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and what else I think is so interesting is on the National League side of things, doing this before we know the result of game number 2 between the Dodgers and the Phillies, but am I crazy to think that whoever wins this game should certainly be the odds-on favorite to be able to win the World Series, and whoever is able to win this series just very much has a leg up on the Cubs/Brewers winner and whoever might come out of the American League?
I agree with you on the Cubs having the edge over the Cubs/Brewers. I want to see, I really like this Seattle team. Well, I think whoever comes out of the Phillies-Dodgers would be priced as a favorite over Seattle. I feel good saying that. I'm not necessarily sure I would pick them. It might come down to days of like when teams clinch and like who's going to start which day. That's sort of like weird stuff that happens in baseball playoffs. But I'm definitely with you on whoever wins this series. I wouldn't be shocked if the future price is they're the favorite, and they'll definitely be the favorite to win the NL for sure.
Yep, it is going to be a lot of fun to be taking a look at that. And when it comes to taking a look at what we're going to be getting in terms of the National League side of things as well, with regards to that Cubs versus Brewers series, again, we're doing this before we know the result of game number 2. But for me, it just did feel like there was a lot of concern for the Cubs in game number 1. We'll see if Shota Imanaga is able to bounce back, but it does feel like the Brewers are certainly that superior team, and I do think that for the Cubs, it's going to be a little bit of a long road back, even if they do win in game number 2.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Brewers are the better team. The Brewers, obviously, as we're recording this, only have a 1-0 lead. If it goes 2-0, obviously that's massive. But even if it's 1-1, I think Milwaukee's the better team. They're fresher. They did a wild card series. I do like Milwaukee to advance. As we're recording this, they're up 1-0. It's obviously not worth betting like a series future or anything like that. But if we're just talking and trying to like forecast ahead, definitely like the Brewers in this spot.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, as well as William Boor does such great work over at Action Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. How are you taking a look at this postseason? Because for me, it's just a lot of game-to-game bets. I do find it very difficult to be able to bet a lot of series. I do think that series prices come into play a little bit more when you get into a 7-game sample size, like especially during the wild card round when you're betting a 3-game sample size, there just wasn't much there. And even a 5-game sample size, there just isn't a ton. But are you someone that's going to be looking at a few more futures a little bit more moving forward, or is it going to be a little bit more of a game-to-game approach for you?
It'll be game-to-game. I did take a series price on the Phillies. I got the Phillies at plus money when they were a home favorite in game 1. That just seemed like good value that I wanted. Obviously, kind of backfired with them losing game 1, so sitting on a ticket, we'll obviously see what happens. But from this point forward, it's probably going to be game-to-game betting. Once we get a Dodgers-Phillies series winner, I'll see the number, but I'll probably do a World Series something on them. I might take one on the Mariners, but for the most part, it's going to be a game-to-game betting for sure.
And I think that that's the way to go. I wholeheartedly agree with you there. And I know that you have been talking up Seattle a little bit here. So how about if we do take a look at that earliest game for Tuesday, because they're going to be facing off against the Tigers, and Captain Jack Flaherty, home underdog against Logan Gilbert, as for the Mariners, between about minus 123 to minus 132, that total is 7.5. Very, very much higher than the 5.5 that we saw in game number 2, and that under actually did hit. But that said, how do you take a look at this one with things shifting back to Detroit and this being more of a afternoon game?
This is just a matter of which pitcher do I trust more. Logan Gilbert hasn't given up more than 2 runs in a start since August. Like, he's throwing really well. I know they obviously beat the Guardians, but we all saw how the Tigers ended the season. So if you look at the Tigers' past 6 weeks of baseball versus, the Mariners' past 6 weeks, Seattle's obviously been playing better. Seattle's been hitting better. Seattle has the better starting pitching. I like Seattle in this series. I've obviously talked them up for the AL as a whole. To me, this is just kind of a no-brainer. Now I know that means Detroit's going to win 7-0, but
Man, and with Detroit, they have been just such an inconsistent team as well, even going back to that Cleveland Guardians series as well. And how big was it that Seattle was able to get that game 2 win? Because I felt like if Seattle lost that Tariq Skubal start in game number 2, they go down 0-2, even though they might be the better team. Having to claw their way back and win 3 straight would be a rough ordeal, but I thought that game 2 was really a rubber stamp and really a saving grace for them.
totally agree. I mean, I'm only talking this way about the Mariners because now they have to win a best-of-3 series, which I feel good about. If they were down 0-2 and they had to win 3 straight, maybe I would grab Seattle plus 500 series price or something like that for, just to have, but I definitely would not feel good about it. And that's one of those things where it's like we could think that Seattle was the better team, but baseball variance hits in the worst times. And if you're down 0-2, it doesn't really matter that you're the better team. It's hard to win 3 straight against teams of this caliber, and Seattle would definitely be in a bad spot if they hadn't got that game.
Yeah, no question about it. And I do think that we've got ourselves a lot of fun to be taking a look at in the postseason. And with that as well, do you change anything about your betting style when it comes to the postseason as compared to the regular season? Or has it been pretty much business as usual for you here in the playoffs?
The only thing I really change is hard to put a number on it, like 5% in a handicap or something. is kind of what I mentioned with the Yankees earlier, is you think a little bit more about that mental state late in series. And you also kind of think about it when you're live betting too, of knowing that for the most part, every reliever is kind of always available. If it's game 1 or something, the team will like shy away. But if it's game 6 in a series and you want to maybe live bet an over or something, you've got to know like, hey, I know their closer pitched yesterday, but they're going to go to him again today if they need to. If you're jumping into live betting, I think you got to think about the bullpen arms a little more. And then, like I said, I kind of factor in motivation a little bit more, but that's obviously really hard to kind of figure out.
Yep, it certainly is quite hard to be able to figure out, but you know what? You're doing your best, William. You're doing an amazing job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. And I know that you're locked in with a little bit of everything, so love to get people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Of course, I am on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at WBOR, WBOOR. All my picks are in the Action Network app at @WilliamBoor_, all one word. But don't just follow me. Make sure to check out the Action Network app as a whole. Check out actionnetwork.com to see everything my colleagues are doing. We've obviously got stuff for all these baseball playoff games. We got the NHL starting this week, NBA at the end of the month, obviously NFL, college football, college basketball is coming up. We have an article coming out tomorrow about who may or may not win the Nobel Peace Prize. If you can bet on it, we've got it covered for you.
And William, he does do a great job of being able to cover it all every single time he joins me. He lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So big thanks to William for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming next, how about if we get you guys those picks and analysis for both games on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by William Boor. He does an amazing job over at Action Network, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So big thanks to William for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on both games on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81. We're actually going to be going out of time order. They've got the Blue Jays versus Yankees game listed first, so we'll let that, and then we'll go Mariners versus Tigers. So how about if we start with 901, 902 on the card? The Blue Jays are on the road against the New York Yankees as Carlos Rodon is on the bump for the Yankees. Shane Bieber has a fever for trying to get outs. With the Blue Jays, they are an underdog of anywhere between plus 123 to a plus 131, minus 142 to a minus 149. That number on the Yankees. 7.5 is the total. Over and under both at minus 110, and I'm going to be in on the over. I did set my total at a 7.7. Got a guy in Carlos Rodon who's been very solid coming into this, actually. 3 runs or fewer given up in each out of his last 8 starts in that postseason start. A little bit hit or miss, but still doing a relatively rock-solid job there. But that said, he now faces off against a bunch in the Toronto Blue Jays are as hot as lava. We saw what they were able to do, putting up 10-plus runs in both of the games out there in Toronto for the Blue Jays ever since the All-Star break, by the way. They're averaging over 5.5 runs per game if you include the regular season and the postseason. That is number 1 in all of baseball. Vlad Guerrero Jr. hitting grand slams is great, as he only had 23 home runs during the regular season, but seems to be heating up here in the postseason without question. You've been able to get a lot out of George Springer during the regular season, over 28 home runs, over a 380 on base, and I mean, for this Blue Jays team, you just have a lot of guys in general that are moving the line. Don't call his name Alexander Kirk. He's already got 2 home runs in the postseason. Wasn't necessarily a specialty during the regular season, but in the regular season was hitting above a 275. Dalton Varsho has a pair of bombs here in the postseason. Now, do I think that they're going to continue to average 4 home runs a game like they did in the first 2 games? No, but at the same time, you still have someone like a Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who's able to get on base to be able to turn what might be a home run or 2 into a 2-run shot, 3-run shot. Ernie Clement has been solid as well. Both of these bullpens do have their issues. For the Blue Jays, they were in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA when it came to the second half of the season, with the likes of Louis Varland, Brandon Little, along with Braden Fisher, posting up above 350 ERAs after the All-Star break, but they seem to be getting a little bit more online. You've been able to get some good production out of Sir Anthony Dominguez recently as well, and I do think that Shane Bieber probably probably going to be struggling a little bit here. If you look at him during the regular season, 3.59 ERA, but a 4.47 fielding dependent, not really giving up a lot of walks. Sub 2 walks per 9 innings, right around about 8.5 strikeouts per 9, down a little bit for his Sanders, but 1.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Now it's face off against a Yankees lineup that is number one in the big leagues in terms of overall run creation. They're number one in terms of home runs per game. Aaron Judge hitting over 50 home runs and give you a 450 on base is obviously incredible. And Anthony Volpe has a home run here in the postseason. That's big because he and Austin Wells during the regular season at sub 285 on base, so you're going to need a little bit more out of those guys. Ben Rice has been plenty productive. He's already got a home run here in the postseason, had over 20 during the regular season, and you on any given night with the Yankees could have all 1 through 9 have 19 plus home runs during the regular season, so the power is clearly there. And for the Yankees, the real issue is the bullpen. Bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of opening ERA ever since the beginning of the month of July. Luke Weaver for the postseason has a 135 ERA. He's given up 5 runs and he's gotten 1 out. That's not great to say the least. David Bednar has been like the lone guy that hasn't pooped the Bednar for this team, as Devin Williams has been a disaster all season long. Camilo Doval, ever since they picked him up, that has not necessarily been too great. Paul Blackburn is certainly not the answer, so they are going to need a good start out of Carlos Rodon, and I don't think that he gives you like the world's worst start, but at the same time, I do think that the Blue Jays are just so out with their offense that they're being undervalued here. Plus 125 or better. I'm in on that Blue Jays money line, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over semi-total at a 7.7, and then 903, 904 on the card. It is the Seattle Mariners on the road against the Detroit Tigers. Captain Jack Flaherty's on the bum for Detroit. Logan Gilbert goes for Seattle. Seattle is a favorite of anywhere between minus 123 to a minus 131, and you've got Detroit between plus 108 to a plus 113. Total 7.5, unders minus 120, and the over is even. And give me a shot on the Tigers on the money line. I actually made them the favorite of minus 114. Logan Gilbert has had some really big road struggles this season, as for Mr. Gilbert, he is posting up a 3.44 ERA overall for the season, 11.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He is giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, though, and that manifests itself on the road. A 4.74 road ERA with 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. Meanwhile, for Captain Jack, 4.64 ERA, but a much lower fielding dependent of a 3.85. He is getting 1.3 home runs and 3.3 walks per 9 innings, so he needs to keep the deep ball down a little bit more as well, but he has been able to give you about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. For Flaherty, he comes in relatively good form. He's given up a combined 5 runs over the course of his last 4 starts, so some encouraging signs there as things towards the middle of the season got a little bit haywire for him. And for Flaherty, overall for the season, 5.27 road ERA compared to a 4.18 ERA at home, though at home he is giving up right around about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, and he faces off against a lineup in Seattle that is very all or nothing, and Seattle's lineup has been much better with regards to run creation away from home rather than at home. For Seattle, number 3 in terms of runs per game away from home, about 4.3 runs per game at home, 5.1 away from home, because Seattle is just such a pitcher-friendly ballpark, especially this time of year. But you've got big jumper Cal Raleigh, you had 60 home runs during the regular season, over 360 on base, and Eugenio Suarez hitting for no average whatsoever, but still had over 45 home runs during the regular season. Then you had Ore Polanco give you a pair of home runs in that game number 2 win. He's been able to above a 250 for the season. Julio Rodriguez is hitting above 260. Randy Arozarena during the regular season, 335 on base, 25 plus home runs. And Dom Canzone is a guy that's able at about a 300 as well. So some nice pieces there for the Mariners. The top end bullpen pieces have been very good. Gabe Spire, Edward Bazardo, Andres Munoz, Matt Brash. These guys have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. When you get into Carlos Vargas and company, it gets to be a little bit dicey. And for the Detroit Tigers, they've had to do a lot of mix and match with regards to their bullpen as well. But the guy that started in game number 1, Troy Melton, has been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Brant Herter is back. He's been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. Kadir Montero could be utilized as a long guy, not necessarily a guy that you want to be going to too much. Kyle Finnegan had a little bit of a shaky appearance out there in game number 2, but overall has been pretty rock solid. And for the Detroit Tigers, this is a team that's averaging 4.9 runs per game at home. That is a top 7 mark in all of baseball. Just a lot of consistency in this lineup. The likes of Riley Green, Gleyber Torres, Dylan Dingler, Javi Baez, if I didn't mention him before. A lot of guys sitting between about like a 250 to 270 during the regular season. You've got Gary Carpenter, who's been able to fly 25 plus home runs during the regular season. Already has one here in the playoffs. And Riley Green, 35 plus home runs during the regular season. And Spencer Torkelson does it for only like a 240 with regards to the average, but on base is more like a 330. He's been able to supply the team with 30 plus home runs this season as well. So do think that Captain Jack does find a way to get the job done in a game where I do think that there's going to be a little bit of scoring, despite the fact that it's not necessarily the world's greatest hitting conditions out there in Detroit, but it being a day game rather than a night game should be able to help out just a skosh. I did set my total at 7.6. I like the over and the Tigers on the money line. That'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to William Boor of Action Network for joining me in the last segment. If you do you like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm with you guys every single day throughout the baseball postseason. Might take a day or two off if we've got a long lull between like the championship series to the World Series, but that's that every day that we've got games. I'm going to have picks and analysis for you guys, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.